so thankful. This is an 8th term. I want to thank Jack Allen. He's a fine gentleman. He actually came over to our party a few minutes ago and congratulated me. We carried every county in the 3rd district. It's my 8th win, but they're all very special.
What can Indians expect?
Well, I'm privileged to actually be a subcommittee chairman, what we affectionately call a cardinal, one of the 12 in the United States House. If we hold the majority, I will chair the Energy and Water Subcommittee. Again, what that means is full funding for the Chickamauga Lock, full funding for the Oak Ridge Chattanooga Partnership, and I think even more importantly, I can help the entire state, as I do continually, to make sure that funding, whether it's in Chattanooga, Knoxville, Memphis, or Nashville, or in our rural areas, the federal funds, the federal dollars get to Tennessee.
Right. And we're still waiting on that presidential race. How are you feeling about that tonight?
Much better. I started the day very optimistic, thinking we would be north of 300 for President Trump. We went through a time when I was very concerned, but I feel very good. North Carolina was critical. It's been called for Trump. Georgia will probably go for Trump. Now all eyes turn to Pennsylvania. We don't know how Michigan and Wisconsin's going to go, but if we win Pennsylvania, and I think we will, that'll be 270, and we'll be fortunate to get President Trump back.
All right. Well, thank you, Representative Fleischman. I appreciate your time.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, yeah. All right, back to you guys. Thank you. Reporting live, I'm Mary Beth Mangrum, News Channel.
That was News Channel 9's Mary Beth Mangrum. She was live with U.S. Representative Chuck Fleischman, who, as you heard, has won his re-election tonight. Let's take a look at some of the other numbers here as they come into our newsroom from our newschannel9.com website, election results there. We're just going to do a quick check and make sure our audio is good, and we are told it is. So let's take a look at some of our election results into our newsroom. Let's look. Tennessee has been called for Donald Trump. 65% for Trump, about 33% going to Kamala Harris now. You can see Alabama, 68% for Donald Trump, 30% for Kamala Harris. You can see the other states there. If you do an electoral count right now, Donald Trump has 198 with Kamala Harris's 99 electoral points there. You can see, though, Georgia has not been called by the Associated Press yet. It is very close at this point, 52% for Donald Trump, 47% for Kamala Harris. Let's talk a little bit about an issue that we saw a little bit earlier today in Georgia. Late in the day, as the polls were getting ready to close, there were some bomb threats that were called into some of the polling places around the Atlanta area. That caused some of them to be evacuated, and in some cases, they extended the voting times there to make sure that everyone who wanted to vote, who had to evacuate, was able to vote. The Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, said none of those bomb threats there were credible, but it did kind of put a delay in that process, so we are still waiting to hear get some of those votes from the counties around Atlanta, which is, of course, the urban areas of Atlanta, which has traditionally voted Democrat. So Georgia, at this point, still close to call. North Carolina in the presidential election, too close to call. Donald Trump it just changed here. Donald Trump 51% there. Kamala Harris 47%, with 68% of the votes being counted. That is, again, North Carolina. You can see some of the other races being called across the country for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. Again, the electoral count at this point, Donald Trump with 198, Kamala Harris with 99. Now, we did speak to some voters early in the day at some of the polling places across Hamilton County. Here's what they had to say.
19, and I think voting for me is especially important, especially because I think as a citizen it's important to fight for my right. The experience and just being able to vote and using my power to vote for others who don't have the power to vote, I think is extremely important.
All elections are very important, but this one is the most important. And this year is by far the most important.
Yeah, so we have to get here at 6:30 and set things up. And by 7:30, 30 minutes before the polls even opened, we popped our heads out and the line was down to the corner. It was, I don't know, I'm bad at estimating people, but at least 100 probably.
Okay, that was an election worker there in Hamilton County as they talked about getting their votes counted. Let's take a look now, if we can, some of our results from Hamilton County. 51 of 92 precincts reporting. You can see here when we go down to the presidential race, about 54% coming in for Donald Trump, 43% for Kamala Harris. Some of the other races there, of course, Marsha Blackburn, that race has been called for her for U.S. Senate. Chuck Fleischmann, we heard from a little bit earlier. When you look at just the Hamilton County vote, he took away about 55% of the vote. Representative Todd Gardenhire, when you look at this part of the race, 50% is for Gardenhire, 48% for Missy Crutchfield, but Todd Gardenhire's district goes into other counties like Bradley, so that's not the complete vote there. I do want to go down just a little bit. We're going to go down to the liquor referendum and get the latest vote there. This is 72% for the referendum, 27% against. This is a referendum there to make things in liquor by the drink in the unincorporated parts of Hamilton County legal. So again, this is just 18 and 43 the precincts reporting, so not all the numbers are in there, but it does look at this point like that will pass if that trend continues. Now, let's move now to Catoosa County. We know that we did have some issues there in the past with some of the Republican candidates wanting to run in the primary as Republicans, the GOP party there not wanting some of them to do that, trying to keep them out of the ballot. They took that challenge to court. The candidates won, and tonight Steve Henry has won for
I'd really like
Catoosa
to
County
stress
chairman.
that I hope they've learned that the best way the best way to do it is to let the voters decide. You know, it's never a small group of people's choice on who's going to represent a big organization, a big group, a whole county, a state, whatever it may be. Let the people decide. So I hope they learn that lesson to leave the power with the people.
We was saying there when we spoke to Tom Grissom, White House Communications former secretary there, that we probably won't know a lot of the outcome tonight as we go to bed. There'll be a lot of unanswered questions as we've seen in years in presidential elections past, but for now, this is where we stand. Those numbers have changed just since the last time we looked at them. With the electoral count, Donald Trump is at 198, Kamala Harris 109. They need 270 to take the presidential spot. If you look at the popular vote right now, Trump has 52%, Kamala Harris has 46%. Georgia, a lot of eyes still on Georgia. Too close to call, and that may be something that as we go to bed tonight, later on in the evening, we still don't know yet. We'll continue to watch all of these numbers here for you in News Channel 9's newsroom, here online on our social media pages, and on Fox Chattanooga and News Channel 9 on the air. We'll see you then when there's another update.